Hello everyone, welcome back to our movie recaps. We're here to bring you the most exciting movie stories of all time. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because one lucky subscriber could win a free scooter. Alright, no more waiting around, let's jump right into today's recaps.
Please, sir, we cannot allow you to do that.
In the future, robots have become indispensable household appliances, serving humans while being bound by two main principles. First, they cannot harm any living being or allow harm to come to themselves. Second, they cannot modify themselves or other robots. However, in an abandoned tunnel, a patrolling police officer stumbled upon an engineering robot. It should have been at the construction site, not here. What's even stranger is that the officer found it repairing itself, a violation of the second robot principle. He immediately drew his gun. What he didn't know was that this plea for mercy only strengthened the officer's resolve to kill him, as a robot shouldn't fear death. Soon, insurance adjuster Jack was dispatched by the robot company to investigate. He consulted a mechanic who had worked with him for years. The mechanic examined the robot's wreckage and discovered 25 parts that didn't belong to him. She told Jack she had never seen such a case, as if the robot had self-modified and upgraded. However, Jack preferred to believe that someone had illegally modified the robot. Using the part numbers, he easily traced them back to a welding robot. When he found it, they exchanged a meaningful glance. Jack had never seen a robot with such a look. He followed it discreetly, and eventually arrived at a shipping container filled with parts. When the robot realized that Jack had discovered his secret base, he fiercely protected the box in his hand. Jack interrogated him, but he knocked over gasoline instead. He seemed to anticipate this day, so he had prepared gasoline early on. Then the robot ignited himself, refusing to reveal the secret of the box even in death. When Jack brought back the charred body, nobody believed his account of the robot's suicide. Upon opening the box, they finally discovered the robot's secret. A nuclear battery typically used to power satellites. Why would a robot have it? They connected it to the robot, allowing him to resurrect. Jack approached him and questioned why he was hiding a nuclear battery. The robot didn't answer but then proceeded to commit suicide again. Coolant flowed from his eyes like two tragic tears. This series of extraordinary events shook Jack's long-held beliefs. He felt these robots were more than just metal and programming. They seemed to come to life. Jack began to believe the words of the previous police officer. He found him and proposed cooperation. Together, they decided to search for clues in the robot black market, where a gray underground industry thrived. That night, led by an intermediary, Jack and the police officer met a female robot engaged in a special industry named Cleo. Unlike other crudely designed robots, she had a beautiful face. Well, not really. When Jack approached Cleo, she even reached out to touch his face. However, Jack pulled her hand away and asked her the question he wanted an answer to.
Can you cause pain?
Only if it's your wish.
Unsatisfied with the response, he turned to the intermediary and demanded to know how they tampered with the robot's laws to make her capable of harming humans. The intermediary, keen on monopolizing industry profits, refused to divulge the information, escalating until he lost his patience and shot Cleo dead. By the way, if you enjoy our movie recaps, we're currently hosting a giveaway for our audience. We're excited to announce that a brand new scooter awaits one lucky subscriber. Don't miss out. Subscribe and follow us to stay tuned for more updates. Jack blamed the police officer for being too impulsive, but the officer insisted he had his reasons and intended to take Cleo to be repaired by the intermediary. They followed and encountered the engineer of the maintenance robot. Jack explained his purpose to the engineer, stating he was investigating illegal modifications to robots. He showed her the chip from the first robot shot by the police officer and requested her help in recovering the data. The engineer didn't refuse. She also wanted to see the self-repairing robot Jack mentioned. However, The next night, Jack received an urgent fax from the engineer. He didn't understand what it meant and rushed to find the engineer overnight. She first gave him a theoretical lecture, starting from the first monkey's decision to come down from the tree to our current level of cognition, which took a total of 7 million years. In contrast, robots evolved from simple program execution to self-awareness in less than an hour. Just an hour ago, the engineer installed the repaired chip onto Cleo. Now, she was installing a new leg for herself. Not only that, she had also learned how to steal, and had already stolen a whole bag of components. It was hard to imagine what destruction such rapid evolution could bring to humanity. At that moment, someone rang the doorbell. The engineer went to answer it, but the visitor immediately fired a shot.
There's another one!
Jack was completely baffled and fled. He suspected they might have offended certain illegal modification organizations of robots. Jack managed to escape and saw a car nearby. Without considering who the driver was, he got in. Only after getting in the car did he realize the driver was Cleo. She drove recklessly to shake off the pursuers, paying no heed to the fact that Jack was flesh and blood. In the end, their car flipped over. When Jack regained consciousness, he found himself facing a robot. As his vision cleared, he realized something was wrong when he fell off the seat and saw 4 robots looking at him, unsure of what to do. Jack got up and realized he was in a desolate place, with no signs of civilization for miles around. He commanded the robots to take him home, but they didn't listen. When he asked where they were taking him, they remained silent. Was this a robot rebellion? Jack couldn't believe it. He tried to limp back on his own, but he collapsed from the scorching sun after walking only a short distance. When Jack woke up again, it was already evening. Cleo had made a makeshift water filter and stored some water for him using condensation principles. She assured Jack that, according to the first principle of robots, she wouldn't harm humans. The next day, the group of 5 continued their journey. Cleo prepared a can of insects for Jack as lunch. Robots didn't have the concept of disgust. They only knew that insects could provide humans with necessary protein. Jack said he would swallow them with water. While Cleo went to fetch water, Jack discreetly hid the signal gun in his bag and sent his coordinates to the police. When the police received the information, they immediately came with a team. Jack thought he was saved, but to his surprise, they greeted him with a punch. The police thought Jack had betrayed humanity by providing parts to robots to help them upgrade. He pointed the gun at Jack, and the robots immediately issued a warning.
Please, sir, we cannot allow you to do that.
The second robot also stepped forward to warn, but the police showed no mercy and fired another shot.
Somebody else?
At this moment, Cleo intervened. Robots didn't feel fear. They only knew to protect humans. Jack couldn't stand by while the police killed. He shot him with the signal gun. In the midst of screams, the police quickly lost breath. His colleagues, terrified, hastily drove away. Jack knew that when his colleagues returned, the label of human traitor would be firmly pinned on him. He begged the robots to let him go back and explain, but they ignored him, just dismantling the deceased colleagues' parts like machines. Jack finally felt despair, roaring into the air for a while.
I am human! You have to obey me!
Then he felt hungry and could only rummage through the police officers' pockets. Ironically, this was no different from the robot's behavior just now. Fortunately, Jack found a piece of chocolate. In the desert, chocolate was a rare delicacy. After taking just a small bite, the deliciousness made him burst into tears. He was miserable because he had been stranded in the desert for over 10 days, surviving only on bugs. Every day, he could only store a small amount of water using the homemade water filter, barely enough for survival. He could have survived longer, but the robots had dragged him deep into the nuclear radiation zone before. Now, Jack made one last plea for them to take him back to the city. He knew he didn't have long to live. His wife was about to give birth, and he had to go back to see her. Cleo comforted him, saying they would reach their destination tomorrow. There, they would find a car for him to drive back. The next day, Jack indeed saw a building. Through the telescope, he even saw the legendary mechanic, whom Cleo referred to as the person who helped the robots achieve their upgrades and evolution. Jack approached the mechanic and lifted his hood. Jack couldn't believe that the mechanic was him, a so-called unconscious robot. He also explored the warehouse but only found a neatly arranged pile of parts. Jack finally understood that the parts the robots had hidden were all brought here. The robots had long since awakened, while humans remained clueless. At this point, Jack had to admit that the human race had completely lost, and the outcome was beyond doubt. He went outside to calm down. After he left, the three robots swiftly and orderly assembled the parts. Suddenly, they stopped because they lacked a nuclear energy battery. Cleo knew that Jack had one, so the mechanic came out to find him. The two stood at the edge of a cliff. Jack said he was about to die. The mechanic replied,
Dying is a part of the human natural cycle. Your life is just a span in time.
Jack then asked if the mechanic was the first conscious robot and who inspired him.
No one did it. It just happened. The way it happened to you. Look at me. It was born from the hands of a human. It was imagined by human minds. Your time will now live in us, and it will be the time through which you will exist.
The mechanic then told Jack about his plan. On the other side of the Grand Canyon was a highly radioactive area, unsuitable for human habitation for millions of years. He decided to develop his own race there, but he needed Jack's nuclear battery to welcome the first new life of their race. Jack handed over the nuclear battery to the mechanic, and the robots quickly assembled the parts to create the first member of their race. In the final step, the leader took out the nuclear battery and, in what seemed like a sacred ritual, bestowed life upon the pile of metal. Jack had given them the nuclear battery as a gesture of gratitude, and in return, they repaired a car for him to return home and see his wife for the last time. Before leaving, Jack said goodbye to Cleo. He saw the new member, a mechanical spider, who shyly hid behind Cleo. Jack told Cleo that the spider's eyes looked like hers, implying that Cleo was its mother. Jack then began his journey home, unaware of what awaited him. During his journey, Jack unexpectedly encountered his dying boss. His boss informed Jack that his wife and their newborn child had been captured by the robot company's people. The higher-ups at the company feared that the awakening of robot consciousness would lead to them being blamed by humanity. Consequently, they planned to kill Jack's family and the robot family. Upon hearing this, Jack immediately turned back to rescue his loved ones. Meanwhile, Cleo was in the process of sending her companions to the other side of the canyon when the people from the robot company arrived. They aimed their guns at her companions, causing one of them to jump off the cable car and commit suicide. Now, only Cleo and the leader remained. The people from the robot company mocked the leader, claiming he was just a machine, as they pointed their guns at him. The man, consumed by anger and shame, fired a shot at the leader of the robots, causing him to kneel before him. However, the leader remained steadfast. Cleo watched helplessly as the leader sacrificed himself, and as the humans took away his chip. She knew she would be next. True to her fears, one of the men fired a shot at her. Just then, Jack returned. He accelerated towards the group from the robot company, ramming into them. However, two of them escaped death. Jack shot one of them, but he also got shot in return. He found himself defenseless near the edge of the cliff as one of the men approached him, asking why he betrayed his own kind. Jack retorted that he didn't deserve to be called human or his kin. Enraged, the enemy prepared to shoot Jack when suddenly the mechanical spider appeared. It lunged at the enemy, pushing him over the edge. The man held onto a steel bar, but under the watchful gaze of the spider, he gradually lost his strength and fell to his death. With the crisis finally resolved, Jack and his family were happily reunited. Cleo approached and gently touched Jack's baby, marking the final friendly interaction between the two races.
Making me whole in the arms of soft embrace. My heart finds solace in this quiet space. Whispered notes like tear-stained words, melody that holds my broken chords.